Music is a creative aspect of life that many enjoy through the feeling it provides the listener, allowing for an artist to form a connection with their fans through their songs. This tends to lead to developing a loyal fan base as the fans are always eager to hear new songs. However, this concept is something that everyone aspires to gain when attempting to make a wave within the music industry, since not only everyday individuals, but also actors try to make a scene by establishing a music career. Unfortunately, when actors try to do this, for some reason they tend to not get a grasp of their fans, allowing their music to not pull in the best numbers as people only look at them as an actor, as many actors struggle to receive any sort of mainstream success. So join me today as I uncover some actors with failed music careers. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Robert Downey Jr. first started his acting career at the age of 5, in which he starred in a movie that his father wrote and directed called Pound, which released in the year 1970. From here, he would go on to play several more roles within his father's films. Unfortunately, Robert's father was a drug addict and introduced his son to the harmful world of drugs when he was 8. Allowing Robert Downey Jr. to slowly spiral down into a rabbit hole of narcotics as he entered his early 20s. This drug abuse would be further exacerbated when his parents sadly had a divorce when he was 13, causing the young actor to solely live with his father in Los Angeles, California. Afterwards, 3 years would pass, and Robert quickly realized that his education wasn't an important aspect of his life, as he'd rather be focused on pursuing his passions, which at the time were acting and creating music. This is when he had the idea to drop out of high school and move in with his mother in New York. So, by the early 80s, Robert Downey Jr. was setting himself on the path of acting while attempting to juggle a music career on the side. But it wouldn't be until his role as a womanizer in the 1987 romantic comedy, The Pickup Artist, where his acting career fully took off. While he was gaining notoriety from his movies, Robert was pursuing his other passion of developing music as he created several demo tracks around this time, to which he grabbed one of those demos before attending a Sting concert since he wanted Sting to hear his music. He eventually provided Sting with a demo tape, but unfortunately, Sting never heard the track.
I accosted him in like the stairwell, and I started trying to push my cassette tape in his hand.
Great.
It was a psychotic move.
You were stalkerish.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But
And
you wanted to get your music heard by Sting.
Only.
Only.
Yes, because he would understand.
Following this, Robert's career began skyrocketing as he entered the 90s, especially through one film called Chaplin, which earned him a Best Actor nomination at the Academy Awards. Even though he lost, this is still a huge honor to have due to many taking notice of how good of an actor he is, truly portraying the success he gained from taking an insane risk of dropping out of high school to fully dive into his passions. But sadly, this is where things begin to take a twisted turn as the drug addiction that I mentioned earlier slowly start to creep up on him at this point in time. As the late 90s and early 2000s began approaching, Robert would actually get arrested multiple times due to numerous drug-related charges. Then, in 2001, he made his television debut when he appeared on the show Ally McBeal by playing the role of an attorney, leading into Robert getting fired from the show due to him being arrested and incarcerated multiple times. However, while he was on the show, Robert would actually perform 2 songs for the soundtrack, allowing many to believe that this will be the only time they will get to hear Robert Downey Jr.'s music, since not many were aware of his demo tapes that he made earlier within his career. He then continued to spend the next few years in prison or on parole, obviously creating a huge roadblock within his career. During this period of time, he began working on himself and escaping his drug abuse. While undergoing this battle, he discovered a lot of free time on his hands. Due to having so much free time and the fact he still had a passion for music, Robert then decided to start creating an album, overall leading him into dropping his first and last album called The Futurist on November 23rd, 2004. The project contained 10 tracks, to which 8 out of those 10 songs being original songs, with the remaining 2 being covers. All the original songs would be written and performed by him. In fact, on some of the tracks, the piano instrumentals would be played by Robert himself. The Futurist went on to debut on the 121st spot on the Billboard 200 and sold about 16,000 copies first week. Now, these numbers aren't really the worst, but keeping in mind that he's a well-known actor by this point, they aren't really the best. Not to mention, the album received mixed reviews, with some critics saying that the musical backdrop is so predictable that it doesn't allow Downey a single fold to hide his voice behind, and any potential toward acceptability is obliterated by the train wreck musical arrangements, and by Robert's agonizing cartoonish voice technique. Buy this CD only as a gag gift, or if you sometimes think you're a terrible singer / musician and want to hear someone who's worse. Which is pretty harsh if you ask me. Since, in my opinion, he's a pretty decent singer and he doesn't deserve all this hate. Honestly, most of the songs he did sing were actually pretty good. I just personally believe that his singing wasn't commercially successful, possibly due to the many arrests or the fact that many people recognize him solely as an actor. But regardless of some of the unfortunate backlash Robert Downey Jr. did receive, one of the songs did eventually appear on the radio, and he even got to perform some of his songs live. Sadly, in 2006, he announced that he'll most likely not do another album due to the first one not being very successful. He even went on to clarify that he'd rather spend time with his family than being stuck in his home studio all day. Interestingly, 25 years after Robert Downey Jr. gave Sting one of his demo tapes, him and Sting went on to become great friends. Funnily enough, Sting's wife then went on to say that she found the old demo tape that Robert provided Sting with back then. But maybe it was for the best that Sting never got to hear this track. Since the two became close friends, Sting allowed Robert Downey Jr. to perform at his 60th birthday concert. Even though he got to perform with one of his biggest idols, as fate would have it, he still went on to become a widely known actor, with his most notable role being Iron Man within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, also known as the MCU, truly bringing his acting career into new heights. Funnily enough, the MCU even referenced Robert's old music career in the movie Captain America: Civil War during this scene.
The futurist, gentlemen! The futurist is here!
Fully revealing the notorious nature of Robert Downey Jr.'s very short-lived career as an artist. Although Robert Downey Jr.'s love for music was very much apparent, he unfortunately couldn't grasp the attention from many, as some thought his songs were mediocre. If only he could maybe get more people to recognize his artistry, it could possibly lead him into creating another album. Nevertheless, this future is extremely unlikely, as he seemingly doesn't have any interest in music at this point in time. If he does, it would most likely be for a musical and not an album that he has to create for the fans. So hopefully one day, the world gets to hear singing once more in a film, or just maybe, if we're lucky, he'll head back to his home studio and begin writing like how he did back in the early 2000s. Similarly to Robert Downey Jr., Bruce Willis found a new passion, and it ultimately disintegrated into the abyss. Known for his hard-headed characters and big roles in notable action movies, Bruce Willis quickly became a remarkable actor. Nonetheless, acting was not the only thing Bruce was known for, as he dabbled with the music industry throughout the course of his career. Although when he entered the music industry, he was new to its atmosphere, music was still an important aspect of his career. Unfortunately, the longevity of his music career wasn't apparent, as he had to leave it behind. So, before we delve into the hidden realm of his music career and what really happened, it's best to look at the very beginning. Bruce Willis was born on March 19th, 1955 in, I'm very sorry if I butcher this, Idar Oberstein, West Germany. His father, David Andrew Willis, was an American soldier who was stationed on a military base within West Germany. Shortly after Bruce was born, they moved to Penns Grove, New Jersey, where Bruce was raised. From here, Bruce would focus on school and have a pretty normal childhood. He fully discovered his new passion once he entered high school and took a drama class. However, At this point in time, he didn't think he would be able to turn it into a full career, which is why he went on to work with his dad in a chemical factory, then become a security guard after graduating high school. Nevertheless, Bruce wanted more as he was eager to pursue his passion of acting. So he decided to enroll in the Montclair State University in New Jersey as a drama student. He then went on to take a huge risk by dropping out of college after his sophomore year and moved to New York City to further pursue his acting career. While in New York, he would be working at a cafe in order for him to make some money. One day, while working at the cafe, he would be approached by a casting director who liked his personality and needed a bartender for a small movie role. From here, Willis would earn himself multiple minor roles, with some of them even being uncredited. But it wasn't until the mid to late 80s where he saw major success within his acting career, starting off by his role in the hit romantic comedy television show titled Moonlighting. This series aided Bruce to get his name on the map as he earned himself an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series and a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor for a Television Series. So by this point, Bruce Willis was regarded as a top actor as people quickly gravitated towards his performance, thus causing him to land multiple other roles within the upcoming years. However, Willis wanted to attempt something new within his career as he had a secret passion for making music, causing him to develop a moniker called Bruno Radolini, to which he could portray a story within his songs. This caused HBO to link up with Willis for them to make a fake documentary describing who Bruno Radolini is. This documentary would be titled The Return of Bruno, and it depicted Bruno Radolini having a massive influence on the 60s rock scene. Now, since this was a documentary about rock artists, there was obviously going to be a soundtrack, leading into Willis to develop the project called The Return of Bruno, which encapsulated his character Bruno Radolini. The album contained 10 songs, in which on some of the songs, Bruce Willis would be heard playing the harmonica. The project performed extremely well, with it peaking at the 14th spot on the Billboard 200, alongside with it going RIAA certified gold. The songs within the soundtrack would also go on to perform extremely well, as the tracks Respect Yourself, Under the Boardwalk, and Young Blood all landed on the Billboard Hot 100, overall depicting a new career that Bruce Willis could tap into, as his tracks were receiving major success within the industry. Unfortunately, this is where his career would take a drastic turn, since, a year later, Bruce would be featured in his biggest film to date, Die Hard. This movie went on to gross over $83 million in the box office and became a notable film amongst the public. See, it was at this point in time where Willis saw more success within his acting career rather than his music career, allowing him to press the gas on his acting instead of his music. Nonetheless, music was still something he was very much passionate about, so he would continue to pursue that side of him in the years to come, as he began working on his next and last project, If It Don't Kill You, It Just Makes You Stronger, which evidently dropped sometime in 1988. Now, I couldn't find the exact date when this was released, so if you guys know, please feel free to comment down below. Now, this album didn't pull in the best numbers, as it didn't even chart on the Billboard 200. Alongside this, not many were eager for the album, as not many were aware of it. Not only that, this project was released through Bruce Willis and not his Bruno persona. So by dropping the album through his original name, it caused those who heard his previous body of work to not recognize the name, allowing them to not be tuned into Bruce Willis's new album. Nonetheless, some of the songs did pull in numbers, as on Spotify the song Save the Last Dance for Me had racked up over 8.4 million streams. The album would have a total of 12 songs, to which the majority of the tracks didn't gain much traction. On top of this, the album wasn't received too well, with a critic rating it a 2.5 stars out of 5. Although this isn't the worst rating, it's still poorly received compared to his previous album. Following this, Bruce Willis began solely focusing on his acting throughout the 90s and early 2000s, as he was featured on numerous other films. Following this, Bruce Willis began solely focusing on his acting throughout the 90s and early 2000s, as he was featured on numerous other films, as he starred in such movies like Die Hard 2, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and the whole 9 yards. But from here, this is where the information regarding his music career became scarce, as I couldn't really find the exact moment he decided to take the next leap. Bruce Willis started a band called Bruce Willis and the Accelerators. Now, to my knowledge, they did release one project, but the title alongside the music itself seems to be lost media. However, the tracklist was saved by Last.fm, so take the information with a grain of salt, as I don't know how reliable they are. But it looks like their only album contained 6 songs, with one of the songs being a live performance, possibly due to the fact that they were mainly known as a live performance band. Since the band was fairly popular, they went on tour performing at multiple venues. They would even be asked to perform for American soldiers in Iraq to help boost their morale because they were fighting in a war during this time. Many of the soldiers were shocked to even see Bruce Willis sing, as they mainly knew him as an actor rather than an artist. But once they heard his music, they all fairly enjoyed how it sounded. From here, Bruce Willis's music career slowly started to come to an end as the Accelerators stopped performing as the years went by. His last ever interaction with music would be in a Broadway musical called Misery in 2015. Unfortunately, within the modern day, Bruce Willis has been diagnosed with a form of dementia, causing him to not take on any acting roles. Even though he is dealing with this sad moment in time, it is still nice to see him play the harmonica for his family, fully showing his love for music that he acquired back many years ago. Although his music career didn't last very long, it is best to look at the moment that he created when it was very much apparent. After all, his music was pretty enjoyable and deserves to be recognized by many. But unlike Robert Downey Jr. or Bruce Willis, the next actor's music had little to none public recognition. Jada Pinkett Smith is highly recognized for her successful acting career, her notable talk show titled Red Table Talk, and her rocky relationship with well-known actor Will Smith. In her early childhood, she always had a passion for dance and choreography, which is why she enrolled in the Baltimore School for the Arts for college. Also, fun fact, this is where she met Tupac, as he was one of her classmates. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyways, she always loved drama growing up, which is why she dropped out of college in order to pursue her love for acting. Then from here, the rest is history. But what many don't know is that she secretly had a passion for music. See, after Jada began her journey as an actor in the early 90s, she eventually ran into Will Smith. Then by 1997, the two would begin their relationship amongst one another. This is where she was probably inspired to pursue her music career, as Will Smith was also an artist, since by this point, he recently dropped one of his early projects called Big Willie Style. So seeing her significant other chasing one of his passions inspired her to do the same. And to many surprise, she wanted to pursue a career in metal music. This is because she would state that she used to listen to all kinds of metal music growing up, with her even stating that she would listen to such bands like Metallica and Guns N' Roses. Jada would even be surprised at the fact that not many girls were developing this type of music. So by the year 2002, Jada decided to hit up her friend within the music industry to string up a band for her, in which she did, and the band surprisingly started off making music that was described as soul/rock. Their band was called Wicked Wisdom, and one of their first performances was opening up for the European leg of Britney Spears' Onyx Hotel tour. However, on this tour, the band quickly realized they were trying to go for more of a metal sound, in which Jada described it as their sound was getting heavier and heavier. Once they did that, they knew the type of sound they wanted. Soon after this realization, they went on to drop their debut album, My Story, which was released sometime in 2004. They shortly after went on several live performances before developing their next album. Around this time would be when legendary rock artist Ozzy Osbourne and his wife invited Wicked Wisdom to perform at Ozfest in 2005. This occurred after Ozzy Osbourne's wife discovered Wicked Wisdom and found their music appealing. Fans of Ozfest were annoyed at this announcement, as many believed that Jada's band isn't real metal music. In fact, when they went on stage to perform, the crowd began booing at them and telling them to get off the stage. To make matters worse, in an interview with Willow Smith, who is Jada Smith's daughter, would go on to state that Jada faced racism, sexism, and death threats because of the performances at Ozfest. Some people in the crowd would allegedly throw glass at them while they were performing. Although all these harsh things were happening to the band, they would go on to explain that after 7 performances, people would eventually turn around and start to mess with their music since they could tell they were an actual serious band. Regardless of this, Jada would claim that all the criticism from the fans made her rethink her dreams of her metal band. Interestingly enough, Will Smith would even allegedly tell Jada to switch to the R&B genre instead of heavy metal. But the band persisted with their careers and released their second project, self-titled, which evidently dropped on February 21st, 2006. Will Smith would even be the executive producer for this album. The project did receive minor mainstream success as it peaked on the 44th spot on the Billboard Top 100 Heat Seekers chart. Sadly, this would be the only mainstream success they would ever receive as a band, especially since after release of this project, the band seemingly disbanded, as no more music past this point was ever released to the public. Now, the reason behind the group departing is most likely due to the criticism they were receiving, or possibly due to Jada becoming too busy with her acting career. The only other time the band would have some activity after this point was in the early 2010s when people speculated that a new album was going to drop, with the band changing their name to Wicked Evolution. However, nothing came from this and the band stayed in the dark. Within the modern day, no one has heard any news from Wicked Wisdom, as their inactivity is most likely going to go on forever. Alongside this, their music isn't on streaming services, so the likelihood of anyone discovering their music isn't very high, seemingly confirming that Wicked Wisdom was just stamped as a moment in time for Jada Smith and it's most likely never returning. Now, although the band got a huge amount of hate, I don't believe their music was that bad, as I found Jada's voice to be pretty good for the metal genre. Nevertheless, as you're seeing on the screen right now, many people thought otherwise and truly prevented Jada from reaching any heights within her music career. Unfortunately, Wicked Wisdom is probably never going to return, but hopefully one day the band gets back together for a reunion for one last time. But unlike Jada, Scarlett Johansson had a promising future within the music industry. Scarlett Johansson has resided within the realm of acting ever since she was 8. As she was featured in multiple Broadway shows and movies such as Home Alone 3, Iron Man 2, and A View from the Bridge. Even though she has centered her life around her acting career, this wasn't the only passion she had, as she shifted her focus throughout the late 2000s towards music. After all, music was something she has always gravitated towards throughout her entire life. So, tapping into a new career path was not to her surprise at all. Sadly, this career didn't last very long since Scarlett Johansson does not have much interest in music within the modern day. But to get a better grasp on why this is, it's best to uncover how she found her love for music, how her music career was, and what exactly went wrong with this career path. Scarlett Johansson was born in New York City on November 22nd, 1984. The creative arts industry has seemingly always ran in her family, as her mother was a producer, and her grandfather worked as a screenwriter and director, thus paving the way for Scarlett to eventually become interested within the same field as them, to which she did at a young age, as her mother would set her up with auditions by the time she was 8, landing her with her first ever acting gig for an off-Broadway show titled Sophistry. From here, she would keep auditioning and landing more acting roles throughout her school years. Although she enjoyed acting, she started developing a passion for music as she felt connected to that world, especially after she saw how easily the realm of acting and the realm of music can intertwine with one another, resulting her to later enroll in Manhattan PCS, which is a private educational institution known for such famous actors. Her major within the school would be musical theater, as she wanted to do more within that aspect of her career. In fact, Scarlett would even state how much she was into musical theater during an interview with Vogue magazine by stating, "I was one of those jazz hands kids," truly revealing how much she was into music and acting at the time. But regardless of how much she enjoyed music, her acting career is what put her name on the map, as the popularity surrounding her name started to increase after she landed roles on such movies like Lost in Translation, and in good company. So by the early 2000s, Scarlett's career was always on the path for success. But it was with the film Lost in Translation that truly sparked something in Scarlett. After all, she appeared on the soundtrack for the movie with her cover of the track Brass in Pocket. This was a notable moment for the aspiring actress as it influenced her to develop more music, allowing her to switch gears and begin working on an album. She would further explain how this album came about in an interview.
You know, I was given this opportunity after working on a friend's album that benefited Music Matters to do a full album, which was an opportunity I could not pass up.
So basically, after helping one of her friends' album, she decided to tackle the challenge of creating a project of her own, resulting in the tape Anywhere I Lay My Head to be released on May 16, 2008. This project contained 13 tracks, which were all covers besides one, and had 2 David Bowie features. The album did receive mild commercial success, with it peaking at the 126th spot on the Billboard 200. Alongside this, critics weren't too harsh on the project as Pitchfork rated it a 5.5 and stated that this album was an endeavor that most non-actress musicians couldn't pull off. Now comparing this to the previous actors, these claims aren't too bad as most people found her music fairly enjoyable. In fact, she would even have fans waiting in line for her so she could sign their vinyls of the album. Clearly, a music career was imminent for her, with her only really needing to perfect her craft as the years go by. But just like many other actors within this video, this was not the case, since her next album would be her last and following it would only be a 5-track EP. So what exactly happened? Well, her next project, Break Up, would release just a year later after Anywhere I Lay My Head. Break Up would actually be a collaborative project with Pete Yorn, who is an American singer-songwriter and musician as well as a part of the group The Ohms. So evidently, he has a fair experience of the music scene, especially in the alternative / indie genre, which was the genre that Scarlett Johansson tapped into the most. The whole ideology behind the album was to encapsulate a relationship amongst 2 individuals through several duets. The project would only be 9 songs long and it gained mixed reviews. Even though it landed on the 42nd spot on the Billboard 200 and ended up being her peak on the chart, critics still weren't too fond on the album, as it received a Metascore of 52, since many critics thought the 2 didn't portray the concept well enough. However, if you ask me, they did it pretty well, with Scarlett Johansson even having decent vocals compared to her first album. Now, it's not something that I'd listen to like that, but it's still pretty good for what it is. Although it had negative reception, Scarlett and Pete still decided to perform these songs live. Now, from here, Scarlett Johansson's music career seemingly dissipated as she took a break for several years. She did come back in 2015 to form a girl group called The Singles. Nevertheless, this group instantly got shut down, as another group with the same name sent a cease and desist letter to Johansson since they believed she stole their name. If the group did live on, she wanted them to be more of a typical pop indie band, with them actually referring to their stereotypical nature of the band. Regardless of this, it never came into fruition and Scarlett left her music career behind. Until 2018, where she dropped a 5-track EP with Pete Yorn called Apart. She would state that the reason for her making this EP was due to the fact she loves to work with Pete and she truly just loves his music. And well, I'll let Scarlett explain the idea behind Apart.
We hope that you guys enjoy the kind of messy, gritty, syrupy nostalgia that is Apart.
Unfortunately for the 2, the EP didn't pull in the best numbers, since by this point in time, people forgot about Scarlett Johansson's music. After all, the EP was released in 2018, 9 years after their previous collaboration. On top of this, people mainly recognize her as Black Widow within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, truly painting the picture that Scarlett Johansson's longevity of her career stays within acting. Nevertheless, in the modern day, she still does perform music for soundtracks of movies such as Sing and The Jungle Book, overall putting an end to the short-lived music career of Scarlett Johansson. She did tease another project with Pete Yorn, but there isn't any new information regarding that. Plus, not many people are going to be excited for it since it's been several years since their previous collaboration. Nowadays, she mainly focuses on landing top acting roles for her career, as she puts her name on the map through acting, and it's something that she is proud of. It's unfortunate that her music career didn't take off, but hopefully people will turn around one day and give her music another chance. But only time will tell on what the outcome of her side hustle as an artist will truly be. As we can see throughout each of these actors, they each tried to pave their way within the music industry. Sadly, each of them failed due to the critics not giving them much attention, allowing each actor to eventually leave their music career in the dust and solely focus on their acting. Regardless of these issues, their music careers failing doesn't diminish the spotlight that is shone upon them. At the end of the day, they are still people who have a high stature amongst the public, meaning that if they want to drop music again at a later date, they can. So, if there's anything to take away from this video, keep persisting on your passion if it's something that you enjoy.